I am thrilled to declare that America is back.
You just heard from President Trump kicking off the celebrations for America's 250th anniversary last night outside the National Mall. Good morning. Thank you so much for watching us. This is Right Now. I am Chris Gros, joined as always here by Jack Hole. And Jack, it was celebrations at the end of the night, but it was a bit more of a campaign rally, I think, more so than a commemoration. We heard a number of things, and including the president touting his crackdown on the U.S.-Mexico border, Iran negotiations, and the recent renovation projects across D.C. But President Trump's late-night celebration comes after, of course, what was a tense day, something that we covered here on Right Now that seemingly only grew even more tense after our coverage.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you guys a quick catch-up of what happened, President Trump, he was just about hours away. It was supposed to be 9:30. Our plan actually was to carry it live, then kind of break it down later. But just a few hours or so before we were slated to go on air, we were supposed to air that, President Trump posted this to True Social. He says, today's housing news conference and signing hereby canceled until such time as we pass the desperately needed Save America Act. That is, of course, the strict election laws. It's a package that President Trump has been advocating for here for months now. He continues to say, which I consider to be a national emergency. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Chris, this was touted to be a bipartisan landmark housing legislation, one that we really haven't seen in about 30 years or so. It was during the Clinton administration that we saw a piece of legislation targeting something around housing to at least this magnitude.
Yeah, this was something that was, again, aimed at trying to free up home ownership for many Americans who not only struggling with the affordability issue through inflation and wages not rising to match the level of inflation, but this was an issue, as you pointed out yesterday, that has been steadily rising since the COVID-19 pandemic. This was going to be the first major reform aimed at housing in 3 decades, as you said, including a 15-year ban on corporate investment, streamlining government approval for processes. Think about, for instance, environmental reviews, trying to get things through, raises income eligibility for affordable housing grants, funds grant programs for veterans. Let's go to Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. She was one of the lawmakers who worked with Republican Tim Scott on this issue. Remember, this was an extremely bipartisan bill. This was going to be seen as an easy win for Republicans as well as even Democrats here, but especially the Trump administration who campaigned on the idea that they were going to make affordability their number one priority in Trump 2.0. But here's Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren on the reversal by President Donald Trump.
We get all the way to the finish line, and like a petulant child, he says he's not going to do it. Up until about 11:30 this morning, Republicans were tweeting about what a great bill it is and how much they love it. And then along comes Donald Trump, stamps his little foot and says no. This is a man who really doesn't care about the American people.
And look, in other interviews that she did, she said she wouldn't pretend to be the person who can get into the mind of President Trump to understand why it is that he made this role reversal. But she is not the only lawmaker that was angered by this, though she was, I think, easily the target by President Trump, and you'll show us here in a little bit. She was the easy target. Though.
You mentioned she has not only been touting this yesterday, she was on CNBC doing an interview there. We were actually watching it live as it happened. That's how I found out. I saw the breaking news ticker. We had it on mute up there in the newsroom, turned it on, realized that we got to reframe our whole entire conversation with just about an hour or so before we went live yesterday. But you mentioned that mass confusion, shock, especially after such the bipartisan nature. I saw her and Tim Scott in the run up to this being passed by both the Senate and the House. They both did a editorial for the New York Times. So there has been a long push here to kind of get not just the public support, but public awareness of this. You've mentioned that this is something that they both were gearing to use here in the midterms coming up in just a few months here. The affordability, poll after poll after poll has indicated that that is by far the top issue that we are seeing here. Not just this year in 2026, we saw it dominate a lot of elections back last year in 2025. General cost of living issues, that has really dominated the conversation. We went through some of the numbers about home ownership, renter struggles in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. I think I'm going to do this off the top of my head. I think that the home prices are 5 times the average median income. We have the average 30-year mortgage is about double what it was June 2020.
Yeah,
about a 38% increase in rent prices since the beginning of the pandemic. So really, after the past 6 years, we've been seeing these issues sometimes accelerate, but nonetheless persist. We also have a housing shortage with estimates ranging from 1 million to 6 million homes. So this has been an issue that both sides feel an immense pressure to find some sort of solution on, to the best of the ability that they can on the federal level. We kind of talked a little bit about what that would look like at a state by state level or even a municipality by municipality level. We've talked about housing here in California.
Oh, yeah.
I think both of us were of the mindset that this is not a foolproof solution to solve it here in California, but in conjunction to a bunch of other stuff, it could prove to be really circumstantial, perhaps for the benefit as well. So we'll take a look here to President Trump's tweet that he posted before he announced that he was going to cancel the bill signing, and he takes direct aim here at Elizabeth Warren using one of the similar nicknames that he uses for her, Pocahontas. Says the Elizabeth Warren-centric housing bill, which is of minor importance compared to lower interest rates, even FISA, that is a security bill that's struggling to get to his desk right now. He says that it even pales in comparison to the SAVE Act. That is what Americans, both Democrats, his new term for Democrats, Republicans, and everyone else care about.
Yeah, and look, yesterday we're going to go through yesterday, but there was essentially this, like, what is the status now of this bill with the housing bill? And the thought process was initially, well, he's just holding it up because he wants obviously to get the Save America Act passed. That became the focus yesterday, obviously, is that he believes the Save America Act is what needs to pass first. We know that he's threatened to hold bills hostage unless that is passed. But then there were comments that were made throughout the day by President Donald Trump going back to interest rates that led many to believe that there is a chance, especially based on what's brewing in the House here. There have been a number of House members who are speaking outside of Speaker Mike Johnson and essentially saying that they also believe that the Save America Act needs to be passed and passed, with haste. That essentially that there is a chance that he could veto this bill. And because he maybe doesn't believe in it, because he has time and time again said he believes that the key and solution for housing is to lower interest rates so that more people could get into the market. He does not want to see that home values necessarily go down. And so now there is a fear that some are essentially wondering that if he vetoes it, obviously it was passed in such enormous numbers that there is the provision that they can override the veto, that being lawmakers. But now there's this movement and this theory. There's a chance that some lawmakers may be changing their minds to appease Donald Trump versus what we saw take place with Senate Republicans, where we saw a number of them voice their frustration with President Donald Trump on a number of issues at a luncheon that they held at the Capitol.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting to see how many people it would take. I believe the vote had in the House.
There was only 32 that were against it.
So it was 32. You need a 2/3 majority to override a veto in both houses. So to reach, if they were to fully convert enough members to not make this as veto-proof as it already kind of sounds right now, you'd need a third of 135 or of 435. You're looking at roughly 146, 47 members. So that's about 110 more.
Yeah.
But, there is support. It has that bill, the Save America Act, has passed the House twice. So it has been the Senate where we have been seeing that issue for it. So I guess it is not entirely outside the realm of possibility to see a situation in which you get a mass block of Republican lawmakers to jump on board and not necessarily be against the housing bill, but prioritize the Save America Act over it. Of course, you're still going to run in unless we talked about reconciliation. We don't know how feasible that has been because we feel like we know that that there are limits to what can get passed through the Senate without a 60-vote majority. Oftentimes, it has to be strictly budgetary reasons. Every provision, every line item has to be this amount of money goes this way, and that's kind of not the nature of this bill, the Save America Act in particular. So there are
parliamentary, the parliamentary rules would not allow for a huge chunk of the Save America Act to be voted in through reconciliation,
or it would take some sort of immense watering down. We're not lawmakers. We don't know what those machinations and what those different compromises could look like to essentially shove it through Congress and get it to President Trump's desk. But we do know that would be a challenge regardless. So we know that he mentioned the Save America Act, but President Trump also met with some GOP senators. After this announcement later on, we were waiting to hear from President Trump for some comments. When he arrived, we didn't hear anything. He spoke very briefly after. We'll play that sound in just a second, but still no comment from those two instances.
He was asked before he went into the luncheon. This is another sort of just strange moment because I had it for my 11:30 report yesterday. He was asked about the unaffordability of housing and not signing this, and he made it about communism in the country.
He's referring to the three Democratic candidates.
I mean, he didn't name them but that's been sort of like my theory is that this reversal is based off what took place in New York, where we saw a number of DSA, Democratic Socialists of America candidates win in their primary, and that this about face is somehow that, that those candidates can only win if there's fraud going on, which we don't have any proof or evidence of. Again, it's hard to connect the dots, but that's my theory at least. And then him saying that before the luncheon when asked about housing, essentially saying that the Save America Act is much more important. It's a bit confusing, and it's a bit of a leap for me to try to connect the dots, but at least that's where my head went, yes.
Just for context, so everyone understands, on Tuesday night, New York primaries, 3 Democratic candidates in the Democratic primary that were endorsed by New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani won their elections. I don't think, I know we're exercising a little bit of caution because we don't want to put words into anyone's mouth. We did, however, see Mike Johnson starting off that House leadership presser as we were trying to get some comments from the House Speaker about President Trump's decision.
Because unbeknownst to them, it had been canceled.
Yeah, and so we were waiting to get some comment on it. And Mike Johnson briefly, a quick aside, said, I will mention that in a little bit, but then he continued to make some statements about those 3 Democratic Socialist candidates who ended up winning their Democratic primary. So, so we know that was going on as well. But during the luncheon, we started to get some reporting. The New York Times did some great reporting. The Associated Press did some great reporting as to what actually took place in there. And Chris, I'll let you take this away here in just a second, but it added another layer because we thought that this was going to be strictly a Save America Act based conversation or decision that we saw from President Trump. But it kind of seemed like in another way, there might have been another layer into this equation. It wasn't just the lack of a Save America vote. It could have been another vote that didn't go his way.
I mean, look, you also, I think we should set the stage. There are at least 2 Republican senators, if not again, more who were primaried by the president and lost their primaries, who are outgoing. And you'll hear from at least one, in particular, that being Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy. And yes, there was, and you see him there, probably going through what happened. But yes, it was a very tense lunch, in particular with that man right there. Sources say the president was furious about a recent Senate vote to rein him in on Iran, that being the War Powers Resolution. Outgoing Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy said Trump asked the group why many in their party joined Democrats to rebuke his military authority in the conflict. And Cassidy said he stood up to say original objectives were not achieved. So physically stood up. Again, this is the president of the United States versus a senator from Louisiana. And that he wanted to know directly from the president what was going on. It's turned into a shouting match. from both. According to Senator Cassidy, the president reportedly told Senator Cassidy to sit down, but the senator responded that he wouldn't before he did eventually. Cassidy told reporters he makes no apologies for standing up to the president. For his part, President Trump said afterward that it was a really great meeting, but that he didn't like a few people. Let's listen in.
I think we had a really great meeting, and we're very proud of the party. We like our leader. We like everybody really in the room. I don't like a few people, but that's okay. I think you know who they are. But I'll give you that information someday. But for the most part, we have a really well unified party.
Really quickly, we know that you mentioned some of these outgoing senators on the Republican side. Bill Cassidy, of course, is one of them. We have John Cornyn of Texas. We have Tom Tillis of North Carolina. John Cornyn actually was asked by reporters very briefly. He was talking to a Democratic colleague about this meeting, and a bunch of reporters came up to him and asked for a brief comment. And he said that President Trump, I'm paraphrasing here, was not all that unifying. So President Trump could perhaps just be putting on a face here because there is genuine frustration here. A lot of the reporting that we've read is that a lot of this divide is President Trump kind of just straying away on his own from what the congressional Republicans say is their preferred agenda for the rest of the year. We talk about affordability in the midterms. That's obviously a major priority from them. To see that kind of go by the wayside over a vote in Iran, which of course is very unpopular. We had CBS polling that said that I think it was 68% of respondents in the most recent poll that we said that we showed you guys here this week said that they wanted to see this done as quick as possible. There's not often you see something with a 68-32 split. Yeah. So there is clearly momentum from the American people to see some sort of resolution to it. President Trump, of course, said that this was going to disrupt the negotiation process here. We're going to break that down here in a little bit, give you the latest updates on that. But, they are concerned. You're seeing more Republican senators be concerned about the war in Iran. You're seeing them more focused on domestic issues. And it kind of seems like those priorities are the inverse of what you're seeing from President Trump right now.
There's a book that's coming out now. It may already be out, but Regime Change by Maggie Haberman, as well as one of her New York Times colleagues. Of course, Maggie Haberman has covered President Trump, but also Citizen Trump has a well-established reporting here on him. And essentially what that book is, I'll give you the spark notes from what I've heard, is that the second term is unlike any other, in large part because President Trump is very focused, very much so, on legacy building things. I mean, that's just one of the themes and tenets of the book. And I think what you're seeing is that Republicans, who again have 6-year terms, who are fighting for their constituents, who are wondering what the viability of the party is in a post-Trump world, are frustrated with the fact that you are seeing senators who they believe do a good job being primaried for simply trying to stick up for that thought process. And then you have senators who are just willing to ride sort of the Trump train to see where it goes. But I do think that there is a growing consensus. You're seeing this in reporting, and a lot of it's anonymous reporting at this time because obviously you're scared of the blowback, that President Trump's sights are focused on legacy things like the Save America Act, like the ballroom, like the monuments, the reflecting pool, simply just getting out of the Iran war at just get out, and not necessarily focused on things that were campaigned upon and that will impact the midterms. And I think that, again, President Trump's a lame duck president. He has no more election to run. He technically does not really need to care about approval ratings. But if he wants to get anything done via the legislative process for the last 2 years, he should care. But it does not seem based on the actions that we're seeing. And I think it's fair to bring up this type of reporting now at this time, because you're seeing frustration on behalf of Republican senators. Republican lawmakers are frustrated with, again, this was supposed to be a slam dunk layup. And this was, Kawhi Leonard in the finals missing an easy bunny, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Like this is something that for many of them feel like was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, and you heard a lot of sound bites if you were watching the news, any of the national channels yesterday, of a lot of Republican senators saying this is the first time hearing about it. It caught a lot of people by surprise. We showed the Caroline Leavitt tweet that was just hours prior to it, saying how President Trump was excited for it, that this was a promise fulfilled by President Trump, and in some ways it was. There was a pretty solid overlap. If you looked at it on a Venn diagram of priorities here on this specific issue with Republicans and Democrats, the corporate investment in houses. This is something that not only President Trump signed an executive order and sought to codify it. We saw Gavin Newsom talk about it. We've seen a lot of Democrats talk about it as well. It's one of those rare instances where there is unity on an issue. So it was definitely a shock for a lot of people. So how does this relate back to the Iran war?
Yeah, could you explain that to me? Because I'm reading it still, and I'm still having a hard time understanding why there was another vote and why it changed.
So we had four Republican senators
Yes.
That had voted in favor of the Democrat resolution to either tell President Trump to stop the war or seek congressional authorization. This was on Tuesday. On Wednesday morning, President Trump decides to cancel the bill signing. He goes and meets with Republican senators where it's already tense because of that, but he also wants to admonish them, Bill Cassidy, of course, being a notable example of those four, because of their decision to join Democrats in that vote. So what we saw on Wednesday night, this was just, this was probably like, about 12 or so hours ago, was the chamber walked back its rebuke of President Trump's handling of the war. They actually rejected another attempt to advance a similar war powers measure. So this vote was 47 to 50, 47 yays, 50 nays. That is almost a inverse of what you saw the night prior, Tuesday night. Basically an identical resolution. It was 50 yays and 48 nays. There was one person who voted present. That was Kentucky Senator Rand Paul. Rand Paul, of course, we talk about often is a notable heel sometimes in President Trump's side because of some of these votes there. He is a libertarian, so there is obviously going to be even some disputes between him. Even though he caucuses with Republicans, he is a registered Republican. He is not necessarily a conventional Republican, so you see that a lot of times, but he voted present in this situation. Bill Cassidy was one who voted no on Tuesday night.
Right.
J.D. Vance invited him into the White House along with some military leaders after this conversation, this luncheon with President Trump, to quote unquote alleviate concerns. That's what we heard in the reporting, and that's what we heard from Bill Cassidy, who posted about it on social media. He ended up flipping his vote in last night's vote from a nay to a yay. So there is, I'm looking at some analysis from
I guess I didn't realize how quickly they can just sort of nullify a previous vote. Like that they could just bring this back up and essentially cancel out a vote that just had happened 24 hours prior.
I'm not entirely sure if, we're talking about a lot about vetoes today, and especially yesterday as well. So it could be as easy as President Trump vetoes the Tuesday night one. They have to reintroduce it if they don't have enough votes to override it. This could have been that reintroduction, failed on arrival. So I'm not entirely sure what that exact situation was, so I don't want to get anything incorrect. But I was reading some reporting here about it, and I'm hearing words from some of these places about placating this. I wouldn't say necessarily, I don't want to go as far as to accuse people of placating the president here in this situation. However, it is an about face. It really is an about face. We're talking about 24 hours. There could be a situation in which these four people are either A, looking to give President Trump just a little bit of leeway. We are seeing these negotiations take place. A memorandum of understanding has been signed, a 60-day thing. Marco Rubio just finished up a trip in the Gulf states. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. This also, it could be some sort of compromise to maybe allow this housing bill to pass a little bit. President Trump was obviously very angry, and it came, they angered President Trump at a time where his signature could have proved very beneficial for their midterm goals here, their 2026 legislative goals. I'm not trying to connect the dots here. I don't entirely know what the situation is, but it is notable that we see this about face happen at a time where President Trump declined to sign a bill that was going to be a major tenet of their campaigns heading into November.
I think it's completely fair to try to connect the dots because it does appear that there is a lot of backdoor deal making going on. In fact, we haven't even gotten to House Speaker Mike Johnson, saying and insisting that President Trump is going to sign this deal because there is still those whispers going around right now that, he may veto this. And again, whether or not they lose the votes to override it, I think you pointed out statistically not likely. But there was also the 10-day provision. Remember, we talked about that yesterday, that when the president is given the bill, that's when a 10-day clock starts. that he needs to sign the bill. So officially, he has not been presented the housing bill. So the 10-day clock has not even started yet. So that means that there's a lot of negotiating going on before that 10-day clock gets started.
Yeah, and Mike Johnson, who again, we were looking for some sound yesterday morning about like an initial reaction to it. We hadn't gotten that readily available for us at that point, but we did hear from him later on in the day about his plans. He's actually planning to meet with the president today, and they're looking to discuss multiple different things, not only this housing bill, but the Save America Act as well. He was asked about the potential of a veto of President Trump's decision to delay it and what that might mean for the bill's passage. Again, if you just mentioned it, 10 days. If he doesn't do anything about it, then it immediately becomes law. There are situations in which it doesn't. That's called a pocket veto, but it is exceedingly rare. So for the time being, we're not really considering that a major possibility, barring some major developments here. But take a listen here to Mike Johnson about his upcoming meeting with the president and his thoughts about what could be the fate for this housing bill over the course of the next few days.
The president, I believe, is going to sign that bill. He delayed it, and I'm going to talk with him tomorrow about that, and we will work through the process as we always do. This is how the process plays out. Sometimes it's slow, it's a grind, it's a deliberative legislative body. That's what happens. So keep the faith. We're going to get it all done.
Optimistic tone there.
Yeah, but I believe he's going to sign the bill. Does give him a bit of a catch in case the bill doesn't get signed. I will say it wasn't affirmative. He's going to sign the bill. This is just I believe he's going to sign the bill. So I will say I think that the language, Mike Johnson uses his words carefully. I still think that there is a bit of an out there, that a small chance, but there's still a chance that President Trump either refuses to sign the bill and sort of opens the clock for up against the gun negotiations type thing, or simply is just couching his bet.
It's going to be it's going to be really interesting to see what the priorities are here, because you mentioned President Trump being a lame duck. Technically he is, but he also isn't right now, because we haven't reached the midterms to the point to where what is currently projected to be a win by the Democrats in the House. We haven't seen that yet. So he still has control of all of the White House and both chambers of Congress. So if there is any opportunity for President Trump to see the Save America Act get through, it is right now. However, you could also make the argument that their best chance to retain as many seats as possible is to deliver a major legislative win, which would be this housing bill, the road to housing. So you're kind of stuck, if you're Mike Johnson, between a rock and a hard place. You could deliver the best possible situation for you politically as you head into an election, as your speakership is on the line, or you can help President Trump achieve what could be his most desired legislative goal as of right now. Certainly is right now. He's threatened to veto any other bill to get it passed here over the past few months. He said that earlier this year. So an interesting situation. We're not sure if he's met yet. We're not sure if we're going to get sound from it, although it is of great public interest. He will be asked some questions, I'm sure, on Capitol Hill today about what that meeting could be. So we're keeping our ears open for that. But definitely interesting to see what's going to happen, because there are two different ways. One could be politically more beneficial for him. One could be more politically beneficial for the president. It's just a matter of what that compromise is going to look like, because you are seeing pressure from, although there is a sizable block in the Republican Party in the House of Representatives that could flip their vote, I would say the vast majority of lawmakers are eager to see President Trump's signature on this piece of legislation.